Well, today is our second in our series of our practical tools designed for nonprofit and ministries. Because in light of this COVID-19 and everything that is happening, as ministry organizations and nonprofits and everything, we've had to change our plan. Not only our yearly plan or 5-year plan is completely out the window, we are now constantly looking at 1 month plan, 2 month plan, how to pivot, what happens when cities close, when donors, foundations are delaying a lot of their funding. And so as a result, the big organizations still has some cash flow to deal with it, but it is designed for the small to medium-sized organizations. And hence, that's why I brought in my friend Johanna to really be able to talk to us about this whole thing of peer-to-peer fundraising. So Johanna, welcome.
Thanks, Tommy.
Hey, I'm going to jump off for a little bit and allow you to spend some time talking and helping people understand what peer-to-peer fundraising is, why it's so important, why it matters, why you're so excited about it, how you've seen it work with some organizations. And then from that point, I'll jump back on and then we'll just spend some time talking through what that tangibly looks like and how that's applied. All right?
Awesome.
All right, I'm going to jump off and we'll talk in a little bit.
Hey, everybody. So just to give you a little bit of background, for me, I've been doing fundraising work for nonprofits since 2011. I started my career at the world's largest anti-trafficking organization called International Justice Mission. That was my first first professional foray into fundraising and strategy and all of that. And then from there went to co-found a nonprofit that looked at how we respond to victims of abuse when they come forward and they need help. And then from there, now I'm director of strategic initiatives for Prison Fellowship. It's the largest national organization working on issues of crime and incarceration in the U.S. It's been around for over 40 years. It was founded by Chuck Colson, who worked for the Nixon administration and went to prison actually for his role in Watergate, and came out of prison a totally new person, different person, and started Prison Fellowship as a result. So it's my joy and privilege to have a few years of fundraising under my belt in different scenarios and different situations, from sort of newer nonprofits to startup nonprofits to nonprofits that have been around for a long, long time. And one of my favorite topics in fundraising, in the world of fundraising, is what we call peer-to-peer fundraising. And so I'm going to just give you a brief description of what peer-to-peer fundraising is for those of you who don't know. But peer-to-peer fundraising is basically the idea that, let's say that I am very passionate about fighting sex trafficking, but I don't work for a sex trafficking nonprofit. I work as a nurse. Yeah, this is something that I'm super passionate about. Peer-to-peer fundraising gives me the opportunity as a nurse or teacher or student or preacher or whatever it is in my job to set up my own fundraising page and email it and send it on social media to all of my friends and all of my family, all of my peers, with a description as to why I'm really passionate about this particular organization. And then I ask my friends and my family to help me raise money for that particular organization. So if you're on Facebook, you'll see peer-to-peer quite a bit. You'll see people raising money for their birthdays. They'll donate their birthday to a cause and post it on Facebook or other forms of social media and ask their friends to donate small amounts in the hope that those small amounts will grow into larger amounts. We think back to the water bucket challenge from a couple of years ago, the ALS challenge, where if you remember, people were getting tagged in all of these social media posts. It went totally viral, and you would donate money and then dump an ice bucket of water on your head, that was an example of peer-to-peer fundraising. So it's basically just lay people in the community passionate about something, raising money and doing something silly, and getting their friends involved. And that's the beauty of peer-to-peer, because it can literally go viral, and it can just grow and expand into something completely, totally fun and unique. And then as a person who's raising that money, you can feel very connected to the cause or the organization and really see the tangible difference that you're making, which is why I love peer-to-peer. So my foray into peer-to-peer fundraising really started with this fabulous organization that each one of you should check out, called Dressember, Dressember, Dressember Foundation. And it is an organization that fights human trafficking. And it's founded by this brilliant woman named Blythe Hill, who is a dear friend of mine. And basically in the month of December, she challenges everyone to wear a dress for 30 days, set up their own peer-to-peer campaigns, and every day post about why they're wearing a dress, why they're fighting trafficking. And they post that then to social media. So you'll set up a fundraiser for the month of December. You'll set your financial goal, what you want to raise for the entire month. So maybe it would be, for me, it was usually $1,000. And then for the whole month of December, I would post in my dress. I would wear a dress every single day, and I would post about why I'm wearing a dress. I would post statistics and just different things about why I'm passionate about fighting human trafficking and modern day slavery. And throughout the month, my friends and family would then donate to help me reach my goal of $1,000. And as you build a movement, the last year I did Dressember, 10,000 people around the world were participating, and nearly $3 million was raised for the organizations that Dressember supports in the month of December. And that just shows you how powerful peer-to-peer fundraising can be. And I was privileged enough to serve on the board of Dressember for 3 years, where I was really able to work and learn and see firsthand the power of peer-to-peer fundraising. And so now it's been a joy for me to get to implement peer-to-peer fundraising at Prison Fellowship. This is the first time that we've ever really done anything like this. But as Tommy mentioned, with COVID, what we tend to see happening in fundraising when things outside of our control like this happen, we tend to see a drop-off in major donors, because major donors are defined as people who give, typically it's defined as people who give $5,000 and upwards to millions of dollars a year to different organizations. When their businesses are hit, or they're taking financial hits from the stock market or whatever that might be during times like this, sometimes we tend to see a drop off in major donor giving. And so tools like peer-to-peer fundraising become even more critical, because you can set it up very quickly. You can train people very quickly. You can come up with the tools and the ideas quickly to get it implemented and get it out there. And then you're doing more of a mass fundraising. And so not only are you really working to raise awareness for your organization as the peer-to-peer fundraising spreads, but you're opening the door for all kinds of people to be able to give and to be able to get involved in the same passionate way that you are, if that makes sense. So, for example, for Giving Tuesday Now, we launched our first peer-to-peer campaign. We were able to do it totally free because we used Facebook's fundraising tools, peer-to-peer campaign tools. And for Giving Tuesday Now, which took place in May due to the coronavirus, we had 149 fundraisers. So These are just people who decided to pick Prison Fellowship because they're passionate about the work of Prison Fellowship and the way that Prison Fellowship is responding to the COVID crisis in prisons. And they were able to tell that story. And that day they launched, we had 150 people who launched fundraisers for Giving Tuesday Now. And we raised $75,000 in the course of just one day. And that just really speaks to the collective power. And one of my favorite peer-to-peer ideas that I saw, and I saw so many great ideas during that day, but one of my favorite was a colleague of mine who set up little bingo cards with little tiny amounts of $1, $5. Each card was worth a $20. Each bingo card that would be filled out was worth $20. But she had different amounts, $1, $2, $5, $10 on the bingo cards. And she would post that to her Instagram page and ask her friends to pick an amount and Venmo that amount to her until each of the bingo cards was full. And by doing that, she raised over $500. She just kept putting more and more $20 cards. So for younger people who are in middle school or high school and maybe they don't have a ton of money, they could just pick a $1 amount, a $5 amount, and to see those cards add up collectively to $500 throughout the course of the day is just a testament, again, to the power of peer-to-peer. So that's a little bit of an entry into peer-to-peer. We can talk about, there's a lot of companies out there who have great tools for peer-to-peer. You can also do it if you don't have a budget. You can create a strategy around using Facebook's peer-to-peer solutions, which is totally free. So happy to talk through all of that, but let's bring Tommy back for some questions and answers. And yeah, that was my little intro.
All right, Johanna. Hey, thanks a lot. Let me ask you a quick question. Is the fundraising peer-to-peer only just on Facebook, or can you do it on Twitter or Instagram or text, or would you just recommend doing it on Facebook because that's the best way to do it?
No, you can totally do it anywhere. So we at Prison Fellowship, we are using a fundraising software called Classy, 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 and they create really great peer-to-peer software. So what that enables us to do is create our own pages. So you don't have to use Facebook, and you can use these pages on all social media. You can email them, you can put them on Twitter, you can put them on Instagram, you can put them on Facebook, but it enables us to create the campaign pages and keep it branded to our organization. And we can use their software to really tell our story and sort of create all of this ourselves. Of course, this comes with the price tag, right? When you go with a really great company like Fundraise, which is where my husband works, which you should also check out, Funraise, Fundraise, or Classy, there's a little bit of a heftier price tag to get that technology because the technology is superior. The great thing about Facebook is it's totally free. So if you are a nonprofit on a budget, Facebook's a great way to go.
Got it. Hey, so Johanna, let me ask you, I mean, you've been there before, and we're doing the same thing at Even Together LA. Small organization, executive director wearing many hats. They're doing accounting, they're doing bookkeeping, they're doing fundraising. I would love to try this because I just want to move away from sending out mailers and emails all the time. But do I need to find a volunteer or hire someone to oversee this project?
I think it just depends. I think, at Prison Fellowship, I'm overseeing it and I have a team of people that we're building into it because this is going to become a really solid fundraising strategy for us. But when I was at a startup nonprofit, we did a peer-to-peer campaign and it was just me. I was the executive director and the co-founder, and we had one other person. And at the time we were working with Fundraise. And it was super easy. It just takes you can literally create it in 5 minutes. We set a goal of $100,000, and we set that goal starting at Giving Tuesday. And then our campaign ran through the end of the year. And we raised over $200,000 through our peer-to-peer campaign. And that was just through, we did a series of different things. We did a big launch. So we planned to have a launch through all of our social media channels. We had a few partners lined up that we knew were going to help create a match or create excitement around that we then asked them to send it. So for example, we partnered with a bank in Newport Beach, and they gave a match, but they also, in giving that match, they then sent our campaign out to all of their employees and asked their employees to help reach the match. So then their employees all began to give as well. So, there's all kinds of different strategies you can do. You can, at Prison Fellowship, we're going to have a couple of different strategies. We're going to have one strategy that anyone can use the technology at any time. So let's say you're going to go run a 5K race, and you want your friends you want to donate, raise money for Prison Fellowship for your 5K race. You could post that, hey everyone, all over social media, I'm running a 5K race. And you'll have a couple of options. You could either sign up by going to the website, or you can do your own on Facebook. And then you just start posting it on social media, telling people why you're passionate about it and asking them to give. So you can do one-off things like that. Or you can have it around an idea or around a launch. So a lot of people, you'll see peer-to-peer fundraisers happening on Giving Tuesday in November. That's one of the biggest strategies for Giving Tuesday. Or you'll see it at the end of the year, like December. Hope that's making sense.
No, it does. And which actually allows me to ask, so would you recommend peer-to-peer fundraising, like December does it once a year? A lot of people do it on Giving Tuesday, or would you recommend do it multiple times a year?
I think it just depends, right? It depends on your organization. It depends on, where you want to go. The great thing about peer-to-peer is we think about this like transfer of wealth that's going to be transferred from the baby boomers to the millennials and Gen Z. And so you have to just really think about the audiences that you want to engage and create your strategy around that. So, and also, how your organization works. I think of Movember, where they grow mustaches. That is always in the month of November. And that they do one big push once a year, and that is their strategy. For PF, we're going to have a couple of different strategies. We're going to have a strategy where you can do a peer-to-peer fundraiser at any time in any way, but we're also going to have a very particular campaign centered in April, which is Second Chance Month. So we already have a big push for awareness raising and justice advocacy and things like that for the month of April. And so now on top of it, we're just going to add a strategy in a way for all of our advocates to be able to raise money as well during that month. And since we already have built a good awareness around Second Chance Month, it makes sense for us to create a 30-day campaign that will just undergird that already awareness campaign that we have.
Yeah.
So for us, our big push will be once a year, but it just depends on your organization. I think of another great example is Children's Miracle Network, which I have a good friend who works there, and they do campaigns all year long, and they typically partner with a lot of universities and colleges, and they do one-night dance-offs. So they'll sign up to do a peer-to-peer. It'll be a whole sorority that will say, okay, we're going to do a dance-off to raise money for Children's Miracle Network. We're going to set a goal of $10,000 for the night. we're going to dance, and everyone is just going to give to our sorority. And then that money then goes to Children's Miracle Network, and they raise millions and millions of dollars that way throughout the country, throughout the year.
Yeah, it's similar to, like, we both have kids now, is when your kids go on a field trip or a race, and then you're and back then they had a slip of paper and you just mailed different people asking them to support your initiative, right? It's the same thing, but now online.
Yeah, or like St. Jude. I don't know if any of you guys remember doing or having to do the mathathons with St. Jude as a kid, where we would have to answer math questions and go around and ask our neighbors. But yeah, it was a slip of paper, and we would get their name and their checkbook number, and we'd go door to door. It's the same thing, but now it's all virtual, which is just so much easier.
Okay, so just so everyone knows, you talk about this free tool on Facebook. Where do you find it? If I go on my profile, where can I scroll down? Does it say fundraising campaign literally?
Yeah, it might be super helpful. So, and this is a great, and again, like, this was our first for Prison Fellowship. This was our first foray into doing any kind of peer-to-peer fundraising. We had never done it before.
Yeah.
And this was a great way to do it that was totally free. We paid absolutely nothing other than a little bit of marketing dollars. And it's a totally free tool. But I don't know, would it be easier if I shared my screen and showed everyone how to do it on Facebook? Because I would be more than happy to do that.
See if you could do it. If you can't, then I'll do it on my end.
Okay, let's see. Screen sharing. Oh, open system preferences. Let's see. Entire screen share. Let's see. Does it look like it? Is it sharing?
No, for some reason it's not working. That's okay, Johanna.
Well, I can tell you. So on Facebook, if you go, if you look at your Facebook screen, you'll go up to, on the top across, it'll have your name, it'll say home, and it'll say create.
Got it.
And you click create, and then under create, there's a drop-down menu. And where it says fundraiser, raise money for a cause you care about, you click on that. And then you search nonprofits. So whatever it is, a lot of people, I'm seeing number one, Equal Justice Initiative. That's been a really big one since the Black Lives Matter protests. A lot of my friends have set up fundraisers for Equal Justice Initiative. So you would pick, if that's the one you're passionate about, Equal Justice Initiative. You would set a goal. How much money do you want to raise? You would set your goal. You would set the time for when you want your fundraiser to end. And then you would just walk through the steps, and it literally takes not even 2 minutes to set it up.
Hey, what's a good number to ask people to raise for the first time you're doing it?
You know, I always like to keep it at about 200 because you want to set your goal. You know, if it's the first time you've ever done it, when we went through our training for our Facebook fundraiser for Prison Fellowship, I told all of my colleagues and all of the volunteers that we were training to set a goal of 200. And when we look at December, for example, over the last 3 years, the typical, sort of fundraiser, the average was about 250. So 200 to 250, I think, is a great average to look for. Of course, you're going to get people, and this is what happened at Prison Fellowship. We had people that set their goals at 200, and they ended up raising $2,000 or $3,000.
Got it.
But if you set it too high, it could be discouraging. You could put it out there, and all your friends go, "Whoa, my $5 is not even going to get close to the $50,000 this person wants to raise. I'm not even going to bother." So you have to kind of keep in mind, you got to think through a little bit, what is going to be a challenge but what's also going to get people to give
Yeah.
and to say, you know what, this $5 donation isn't going to be a waste of my time.
Yeah. And how long would you set it? 7 days, 10 days? What do you usually set it up as?
Well, again, I think it just depends on what you're doing it. Like, let's say you want to do a cross country bike ride, then you would set it for the duration of however long that bike ride's going to be. If
Got
you're
it.
doing a 5K race, maybe you start it the day before the race and end it the day of the race. If it's your birthday, maybe you do for I'm celebrating my birthday week. So I'm going to set up a fundraiser and be talking about Equal Justice Initiative or World Vision or whatever it is for a week. And then you could set it up that way.
Got it. And so, Johanna, now at the same time as I hear about it, you also have to do work on the front end too. You have to make sure you bring in a group of people who's willing to do it, communicate them through email, give them messaging, all of that stuff before they launch on Facebook, right? So there is some effort or homework that you got to do beforehand.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's say you're the executive director or your director of strategic initiatives, and this is something that you're interested in implementing. It takes a lot of work. For Prison Fellowship, we spent almost a year looking at different technologies, comparing and contrasting, looking at pricing, seeing which was going to be the best for us, because not only do you want, if you're a larger organization and you're thinking of implementing this, not only do you want it to seamlessly fit in with your CRM system, and that's that CRM is the system that manages all of your donor and volunteer database. But you want it to be really easy for fundraisers to be able to come in and create their page. So it's really important that you get good technology, that you really spend the time researching the technology, working with, your IT team, your marketing team, your direct response marketing team. We had a whole group of people that were involved in the process. And then you do. I mean, we had 3 different trainings, I want to say, before we launched our day-long campaign, where we really walked our entire team through exactly what to do, what to say, how to get excited. We gave different ideas that people could use, and really spent the time training. Training is super important. And when you're creating a campaign and you want, so like for December, for example, we had 10,000 volunteers, 10,000 people raising money. We were sending, we created an entire toolkit, virtual toolkit. So you could download the toolkit and it had, pictures to use. It had wording to use. It had statistics that you could use. It had stories that you could use. Literally, like we set our fundraisers up to be super successful. We gave them all of the information we needed. We were constantly giving them different ideas of what to do to raise money. Challenges they could do, just different creative, fun things to keep them motivated throughout the month. So if it's a month-long fundraiser, you're definitely going to want to have emails going out daily to your fundraisers who have signed up, keeping them excited, keeping that momentum going, giving them the information they need to then be able to put out on social media.
Got it.
So it takes quite a bit of work for sure. If you're going to implement a full peer-to-peer campaign, you really have to have your entire organization involved. It's not just something that you can just do one-off and expect to be successful.
Got it. Hey, and look, I don't want to make sure, I don't want to put you in a position where you're able to share about Prison Fellowship, but tangibly for Prison Fellowship, based upon what you're saying, does that mean they're going to from now on, add on peer-to-peer fundraising alongside still sending out their usual mailings, everything like that? Has that become so important for them, they're going to start doing that?
Yep, absolutely. Our goal for the first, we've set a pretty small goal for the first month, and that we're going to launch it. We've set a goal of to raise $200,000 for peer-to-peer. And so that's looking at if we had, if we could get 2,000 people to sign up to do our campaign and each of them raise 100, or if we get 1,000 people and each of them raise $200, that's kind of how we're coming to that number. But the idea is that similar to Dressember, we'll be raising $3 million, $4 million in a single month within a couple of years.
Yeah.
But it will, by the time it gets to that level, it will be a full year strategy of building. So like Dressember being on the board, we spent the entire year building our strategy leading up to just the month of December, and spent the entire year preparing for that. And when you get to really big campaigns, peer-to-peer campaigns, they can get huge. You'll have your direct response marketing still going over here. And those are all of your regular fundraising campaigns. You'll have your major donors, and that's all still going. Foundations, all of that's still going. This is just another thing on top of it all.
Yeah. Hey, let me ask you, and we both know Blythe and also Dressember. When she first started, I mean, there was no one. She built it up from scratch, right? Do I have my memory correct?
She did. She, what I think was so pivotal for Dressember was she was able in the first year that she launched it to partner with International Justice Mission. So we were able to get IJM's marketing power behind Dressember. So even though Dressember was not well known, IJM was very well known. And so IJM decided to make Dressember part of their campaign as well. And so I think the first year that Dressember launched, the goal was like $25,000 for the month of December, and we raised that in 3 days.
Wow. Okay.
And that was because IJM came in and gave that big push, and then from there it just grew exponentially. And now she's working with 12 different nonprofits, and then the power of Dressember has grown so much. So they have their own marketing power. And then along with the 12 other nonprofits that they're working with, all also marketing it, it just creates a really big, a big thing.
Got it. Hey, so 2 questions I can see an executive director or president of a small, medium-sized organization say, hey, Johanna, I don't have a lot of people in my network. How many people should I have in my network, my email database, my social media before I start something like this?
Honestly, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. I think if you want to set up a really successful campaign, obviously you can't just decide to post something tomorrow and expect it to go viral. Things go viral because there's been a lot of work behind it. So you are really going to have to put some thought and time into it. And I would start, don't worry about how much social media you have or anything like that. I would honestly start by researching, different peer-to-peer, softwares that are out there. So I would start by, even if you're really small, like when I was at the nonprofit that we co-founded, we were really small. It was me and one other person. And we just started by doing demos with peer-to-peer fundraising software. And we really just began to learn about it. And those are the experts, right? The people who are building the peer-to-peer software and selling the peer-to-peer software, those guys are the experts. And they really are the ones that can give you great guidance as to how to launch, how to be successful, who you want to send it to, how to grow, all of that, how to start small and get exponentially bigger.
Got it. And here's a second question. Johanna, as the executive director, I have a lot of different people in my network who would like to help. But the first thing they say is, I'm not a natural fundraiser. I don't like fundraising. What do you say to those people?
It's funny because at PF, 150 of my colleagues said the same thing. I hate fundraising. I never want to fundraise. And then they got out there and they saw the support and they saw how incredibly people responded And so I would say almost the people who say I am terrible at fundraising and I don't like fundraising, you're probably the best at it, to be completely honest, because you're the kind of person that's not ever out there asking anybody for anything. I am a fundraiser by nature, so I feel like I'm constantly asking people for things and for favors and for money. And so I don't, everybody knows, oh, Johanna's coming around. She's going to be asking somebody for money for something or somebody to do something. And so it's a little bit harder. But let's say that you're somebody who's just passionate about it and you've never really asked anybody for anything. You post a fundraiser, you're going to raise a ton of money. And I think about one of my former board members. She's very introverted. She was helped us with accounting at Dressember, and she was like dreading doing her fundraiser. And so she used her dog. She set up her fundraising page and she pretended to have her dog make all of the asks of everybody, and she raised $5,000. So I would say if you are not a fundraiser, just put yourself out there, because you are going to kill it more than likely. You're going to be the one that everyone's going to want to give to. And then if you don't want to do it, use your dog, you can get creative. Use your baby. If you have a kid, get your baby on there and get them to ask for money, whatever it is.
Third thing is, hey, Johanna, you've worked with IJM, which is a fundraising machine. Sexual trafficking is a huge issue people are excited about. Prison Fellowship, Chuck Colson, everything like that. What causes are exciting? I mean, are there certain causes that just don't work well in peer-to-peer fundraising?
Good question. I mean, I don't think so. I mean, I think if you can get creative enough, you can really make anything work for peer-to-peer, truly. I mean, I honestly cannot think of a cause that would not work for peer-to-peer. No, I mean, I really think, because I mean, even if like St. Jude does well with peer-to-peer, even if you're at a university and you're raising money for your university, that could easily work well for peer-to-peer, tapping into the alumni network. I just really don't think there's anything that won't work for peer-to-peer. And this is a great way. Again, I love it because it really engages a younger generation. So a younger generation that is on TikTok, that's on Twitch, that's on Instagram and Twitter, but they don't have a ton of money, but they're super passionate, as we know that they are. This is a great way to get them involved, because they can give $5 here, they can give $1 there, they can give, and then they're seeing themselves as being part of this larger movement that is really making a huge difference collectively.
Yeah.
So, and that is the thing that I think that why I'm so passionate about it. At Prison Fellowship, we have an issue because we're a 40-year-old organization where we have a little bit of an older donor base, but we're in this place right now where criminal justice reform, where equality is so important, and young people are so passionate about it. And so peer-to-peer is such a great way for this younger generation to be able to get involved with the work that we're doing. And so it gives them a way to do it. And that's what I'm so excited about. As a fundraiser, when I was working for IJM, it was always very frustrating to hear, I love IJM and I want to give money, but I want to do something more. What can I do? And it's really hard, because there's not a lot you can do other than pray or give money, because, at IJM at the time, we're working in places like Cambodia, and we had a very select group of people that were former police officers, that are lawyers, who had to do that very dangerous work. What I loved about Dressember and the peer-to-peer technology is that it was able to really bridge that gap of, I don't want to just give money. What more can I do? Well, you can become a part of this movement of Dressember. You can wear a dress every day. You can not only raise awareness and get all of your friends involved, but now you're collectively joining an entire movement that is making a huge difference. And that's the beauty of peer-to-peer. It helps answer that question of what more can I do other than just write a check.
Got it. Hey, last segment before we talk, and this actually moves away a little bit from peer-to-peer fundraising to another part that you do really, really well, following up with the donors. Fundraising campaign is done. They've made their donations. You get the spreadsheets of what's next? How do you best follow up with them and grow your donor base, especially those who are new or those who are monthly donors? What are some tips that you will have as we enter this last segment?
Yeah, we're really thinking that through right now at PF. Obviously, so the way that we're going to do it for Second Chance Month is we'll keep everyone who signs up to be a peer-to-peer fundraiser in that peer-to-peer fundraising technology throughout the month. So the way that we interact with and respond to this segment of people that are signing up specifically to be peer-to-peer fundraisers is going to be different than how we interact with our normal givers that give monthly, yearly, whatever that is. Once the campaign is over, then all of those people will be added into our overall database, but they will be tagged as giving through peer-to-peer. So we will keep them separate. We will market to them separately, because the hope is that the next year they will do our peer-to-peer campaign again and bring their friends along with them. So we will sort of still keep them a little bit separate and a little bit different, and mark them differently in our CRM. That makes sense.
It does. Yeah. This is very interesting, just because, Johanna, thank you very much, because I just don't know anything about peer-to-peer online fundraising. And a lot of times I do well with engaging with different types of donors, but online, it's just a different thing. So thank you so much for all that.
Yeah, this is super fun. I'm super passionate about it. If you have any questions, please shoot me an email. I'm happy to answer any questions you have, and then also refer you to some great tools and resources.
Yeah. Hey, let me ask you, I asked this to Tim Cox yesterday. I'm finding, as you engage specifically with fundraising, as you engage with donors, I know a lot of times email fits well with older donors. Are you finding now these days you're engaging with more and more donors through Instagram or Facebook? Maybe not as Twitter, or is it still traditional like emails and phone calls?
I mean, it's definitely still, I think it's still kind of traditional emails and phone calls, but I definitely, I work more with major donors. So I do peer-to-peer fundraising, and then I work with major donors and foundations. I definitely have used Instagram for sure, LinkedIn. I'm not on Twitter, so I can't say that works. But I love, because my favorite, the joy that fundraising brings me is I feel like I am getting the best of both worlds, right? I am working with the most amazing people on one hand that are doing some of the most amazing work ever. And then on this hand, I'm working with the donors who are so passionate about being involved and wanting to give. And so I'm really constantly feel like I'm surrounded by some of the best people. And, a lot of my donors that I work with have become friends of mine. And so in that sense, now we are following each other on Instagram, we're friends on Facebook, we're communicating in all of those ways. And that for me is really the goal, the beauty of working at a place like Prison Fellowship is it kind of is a lifestyle. It's not like an 8-to-5 job. If you follow me on social media, I am constantly posting about things that I'm passionate about relating to my work. And so for my donors that I'm friends with, they're getting that flood of stuff. I also, along with texts and phone calls and Zoom meetings and, coffees and all of that too. So
it is a relationship, right? Even as we develop with donors, I look at some of the people who have supported us, it
Mhm.
really has become a friendship. You just end up doing life with some of those things and becomes more than just money. Now, once in a while you talk about money, but you also are talking about how kids are doing, struggles,
Yep.
their spiritual walk, all of that stuff.
All of it. Yep. And I have made some of my dearest friends and mentors through fundraising.
Yeah.
So it is just a joy. And definitely when you leave, when I transitioned out of IJM, I felt like I lost an entire community of people that I had grown very, very close to over 5 years.
Yeah.
So, so that is definitely a part of it.
Well, for people who don't know Johanna's story, before IGM, what did you do, Johanna?
Well, I was in pharmaceutical sales
Yes.
before.
Yeah, there are skills that you have naturally developed. The one thing I know, you naturally connect with people really, really well. That's a skill that you have.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's, I love people. So I think, when you love people, and I love stories, I love to understand why people are passionate about what they're passionate about, and, what brings them to want to give to a certain organization. And so I'm just very, very passionate about that.
Versus, I work with so many different ministries, Johanna, or talk with so many ministries where they struggle with fundraising, and that's because they only touch base with their donors once a year, and it's one letter asking them for money. Their argument is, well, we're so busy with the ministry, we don't have time to talk with them. But you lose that relationship. You need their help as it's part of your job each and every single day.
Yeah, it's definitely a balance. I mean, I remember when we first started at IJM, it was a small organization. I want to say when I first started there, we were like 20 million, maybe 15 million. And it's now, I don't even know what it is now, probably 70. It grew tremendously in the 5 years that I was there. But we struggled with that. We were really that organization that was heads down and doing the work. And we weren't great at communicating that work to a larger group of people. And Gary Haugen, who was the founder of IJM, would say, we're an organization that has a really little mouth but really big hands. And then you have some organizations that have a really big mouth and they're really good at marketing and maybe telling a story, but they're spending all of their time doing that and they're not actually doing a lot of work on the ground.
Yeah.
And so how do you find that balance? Because both is important. You have to be able to do the work, and then you also have to be able to communicate the work that you're doing in an effective and meaningful way. And so communicating that with a donor once a year is just not going to cut it,
Yeah. I love talking with you. We serve a lot together these days with Together LA, but in the past, hey, look, you were the one meeting with me, asking me to be supporting IGM back in the day.
Right. I know. I think I got you to do a whole benefit dinner in Chicago.
I'm looking at it right now. I'm looking at the plaque that you gave me, Johanna. I still have it.
That's awesome. I love that. That's so cool.
Well, hey, thank you very much. And we're going to have you, because I bet you after everyone implements all this, we're going to get more conversation on other tangible things on how to follow up with donors. And we're going to have you on to talk about how to engage with major donors too.
Yep. I love it. Any and all of it. I love it all.
It is a journey. Thanks, Johanna.
Thanks, Tommy. Thanks, everyone.
Talk soon.